Again, my name is Deena Hayes, and before I start, I just want to say that I have been heartbroken around the lack of leadership in this city and this county on a number of fronts. And I have got to just acknowledge and applaud the courageous faith-based leadership that we have in this regard. And I just want to say thank you so much for being it is sorely missing across this county. My name is Deena Hayes. I'm on the Guilford County Board of Education. About 6 years ago, during a political campaign, I had asked our superintendent if he minded if I convened a school safety committee because I was curious about all of these gang summits that were happening around the city, and either I just didn't know what was going on in our school system, or there was just some inaccuracies there, so we can just look at what the status of gangs was in Guilford County schools. And, we found a couple of violations of our school policy, nothing criminal, nothing violent, mostly manifestos, the throwing signs, and some of the paraphernalia and some of those kind of things. No gang-related fights, no violence, none of that kind of stuff. And so, people were saying that the school system was in denial or that we had a growing gang problem. Shortly thereafter, I was sort of mentored by someone on the gang task force, and he was really giving me the history of gangs and said that they were really a manifestation and a symptom of communities that have been disenfranchised, marginalized, cut off from economic development opportunities, and all of that history. And then shortly after that, I saw on the Carolina Peacemaker a picture and an article with Pastor Head and Reverend Johnson and several others with Jorge, and the paradigm shift document that they put out and the efforts that they were engaging in. I was called to a meeting because Jorge, as a parent, was experiencing some things at his children's middle school, that he was, other people were uncomfortable about his presence there. He and other family members would come to the school, would support his children like we always encourage and really want families to do. They would be there for events, they would be there for fairs, they would be there for awards and those kind of things. And people were just uncomfortable with him being there. He didn't do anything. They didn't bring any chaos, just absolutely, just being a parent trying to support his children. So I met with him and got to know a little bit more about him at Reverend Johnson's church, and then one by one invited other school board members to meet with him to hear his experience in our school system. And after that, I invited him to join our school safety committee. And he came on and he would bring us documents. He said, these are some kids that we found on Facebook that said they're members of our organization and they are not. And their misrepresentation is going to get them in trouble and doesn't look good for us. And so this information is for you. Take this to the superintendent, give it to your school district, contact their parents, do whatever it is that you need to do with it. We just wanted to let you know this is who they are and this is what they were doing. And so he was really trying to help us, warn parents that your kids are, dabbling in this. Most of the things that we have in the school system are what they call the wannabes, somebody who's, sort of romanticized this whole thing and stuff. And so he was coming. As soon as he joined the school safety committee, we were very heavy on the law enforcement side. We had not only Guilford County SROs, Greensboro City SROs, but we also had Captain Wolf and other people from the gang task force. As soon as Jorge joined, they all quit coming. And they said that, well, they didn't say anything, they just quit coming. And my feeling is that, they're harassing him, profiling him, and having him under surveillance. It wouldn't look good if they were serving on a committee together. So people were not very happy about it. They felt like, we should have the police on the school safety committee. And I said, I agree, but they uninvited themselves, and they're welcome back anytime. But Jorge will not come off the school safety committee. He's a parent. He's a citizen of this community. He's done nothing wrong. He has every right to be here. So the police, have never come back. I met Jorge several times coming to different community events. When he was running for office, Eric brought him over for some campaign strategizing and some of those things. And the humility that Jorge had to endure. Sometimes he would call and say, I want to come to the meeting, but I don't have a ride. So I'd have to pick him up. That they would like to come over and have dinner. They'd come over to the community function so that they can eat. And people just think, that people like that just live large. And the humility that he had to have to ask for food, to have to ask for transportation and other resources is just beyond, those kinds of assumptions. And so, I'm here and totally lend my support, both financial and just sort of conviction around what's happening to him, because what's happening to him can happen to anybody in this city.
Okay.